Jerry got mad at him for not wearing a shirt last week. That's like
Yes, fight the
You get mad at me too.
let's all take our shirts off in solidarity.
Spencer would never wear a shirt ever if he looked like that.
Yeah, if I look like that.
Damn.
No, Jerry wants to wear a shirt.
Oh, that is. Hey, you want to wear a Hilliard Bradley shirt?
They're giving out an NIL deal. I feel awful because I feel like Jerry heard. I feel like he heard me making fun of the fact that.
I was like,
he's been trying to get traded.
I'm trying to tell him like I would never wear a shirt ever. Like,
No, I didn't.
Jerry has a very straight
shirt. Okay. But look at this. There will be no shirts.
No shirts. No.
Oh.
Hey, Josh, what's the excitement factor at this moment in the week of getting ready to go to Notre Dame?
I'm looking forward to this game. Honestly, I'm looking forward to this game. I just feel like this is a stepping stone for me, and I'm just excited. I'm excited, ready to go. I'm got you. You're right.
What do you mean stepping stone for you? Explain that.
Well, we know what happened last year, so really, I'm just looking forward to playing them again and getting back out there.
Are you? Explain what kind of like level you're on right now compared to this time. You know what I mean? For people who've never been through what what you went through, what you're going through now.
Honestly, I'm just level-headed. I'm level-headed. I'm confident in myself. Just get out there and do my job. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
And I tell myself that every play.
How different are you, both as a person and football player, than when you were when you started the season?
I'm a lot different. A lot different. Even just last year, just coming back from injury, just having that uncertainty and not knowing like what would happen, thinking a lot. This year, I'm just know my job, do my job, and let the rest fall in place. I don't try to force anything. I don't try to do too much, just do my job.
It seems like you're firing. I mean, for one of another person. I mean, is that, you know what I mean? When you recognize something, you're there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it
What
is.
does that feel like to have that back? Sort of have that back.
It feels good. It feels good. And like I said, like I know I can play ball. I know what I can do. So just to have the opportunity to get back out there and show everybody what I can do, it feels good.
You talked about, the full circle nature of this game for you and being level-headed coming in this week about what happened last year. Have you always felt that way about it? Was that progress you had to make personally?
I think it's progress I had to make personally. Like this whole year, I just wanted to just kind of buckle in and just know what I'm doing. Not necessarily worried about what's going on outside and what people may say. Just focus on me and me only.
How did you arrive at that mindset?
Took a lot of praying, a lot of talking, a lot of conversations, a lot of looking myself in the mirror and just honing in on what I think is best for me.
What's the best way to describe it? Are you now patiently aggressive? If you follow my drift, I mean.
I like to call it controlled chaos.
Control chaos?
Yeah, that's the term I use. I tell myself that before every game, controlled chaos. So.
And how important is that Saturday against this offense? Basically, who likes to run play action, establish play action, go over the top. I mean,
it's very important. They're a physical team. They're a good team. They're well coached, and as long as we just need to do our job and make sure we're in the right spots. Don't try to do too much.
Josh, 2 more questions. You this year, where you're at both mentally and physically right now, you feel, how much differently would you have handled last year that Notre Dame game to now?
You gotta say it again. I'm sorry.
How much differently from where you're at now mentally? How much differently would you think you would have handled that Notre Dame game or everything that transpired? How much differently would you think you did?
I just think I've grown a lot. Last year, like I said, mentally, I don't think I was all the way there. And this year, in this offseason, it's something I really wanted to focus on. just look at myself in the mirror and ways I can get better as on the field and off the field.
Last question right here.
I like grass. I'm from the South, so I grew up playing on grass and all this. So I'm a big grass person. I never really played on turf growing up.
Josh, thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Big grass person.
Yes.
All right, we'll bring in Kyle McCord right here. Thank you.
Kyle, would you describe it as just a major test coming that you're preparing for this week? How would you describe what you're getting ready for?
Yeah, I'd say definitely our biggest test yet. A tough environment, really well-coached team, really talented team. So I think it's definitely our toughest test yet. But I think everybody's risen to the occasion this week because, obviously we know it's on line on Saturday.
Yeah, what do you see about Notre Dame defensively that just jumps out at you that makes them a little bit different than maybe who you've played so far?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, they're talented. Across the board, there's really no position where I think they're weak in, and a bunch of experience. So they've been in the system for a couple of years now, and I think they're really well coached on film. They don't really have any breakdowns or let guys run free, and they make you earn every yard you get. So I'm excited for it.
Does your process change at all for a week like this? Just the magnitude of the game, knowing what environment you're going into on Saturday. Do you have to prepare yourself mentally differently this week?
I would say so. I think every week I hold myself to an extremely high standard, regardless of who we play and where we play. But I think in the back of your mind, obviously, you know what it is and you know what type of test you're going to see on Saturday night.
How different is it compared to this game than you were preparing for that Indiana game?
Yeah, I think now that I have 3 games under my belt, what you'll need to do during the week to give you a step ahead. And then I think you use that experience and you learn every week and you grow and you kind of just, I think, shape your week. And, every single minute now is kind of mapped out and calculated. And I feel like that's helped me kind of get in a routine, especially during the week, knowing, okay, I got to watch this amount of film on this day and, study this tendency. So I think just having those 3 weeks to kind of get in the flow of things, get in the rhythm of things has been really good.
You get to see how guys operate in the secondary. Where have you seen Josh Proctor take the biggest jump from last year to this one?
Yeah, I think the second year in Coach Noll's system, I think he looks a lot more comfortable. I think he's playing extremely fast, as you guys have seen. And then in practice, he's making a ton of plays too. So he goes out there on Saturday. It's no surprise to anyone the impact he's had. And, I feel like this is the best version he's put out of himself since he's been here.
Can you give us an idea of what your Friday night before a game is like? Kind of like after you get back to the hotel or y'all have dinner and stuff. What do you like to get done on a Friday night? Obviously, this is a primetime game, so it might be skewed a little, but what do you like to kind of get done?
Yeah, I think on Friday nights you're kind of just dotting your I's and crossing your T's at that point. In the past 3 weeks we felt really good with the work week that we put in. So at that point, it's just the finishing touches, really just watching that last little bit of film. And then I think once you feel good and you feel like you're in a good place, I think it's good to just kind of take a step back from football for a little bit and just kind of enjoy the fellowship with your brothers. And so that's kind of what we've been trying to do the last 3 weeks, and I think it's been good, just kind of balancing football and then kind of life outside of football.
Everybody talked about last week after the game on Saturday. You talked about last week being a great week of practice. Has that carried over this week? Have you felt the same vibe?
Yeah, I feel like this week we've obviously ramped up the intensity. I think just because we know, who we're going up against on Saturday. I feel like everybody has kind of had an edge to them, which is good. And I think we've used that momentum from last week and carried over to this week. I think early on we might have been a little sluggish at practice times, like the first few weeks. And then last week, I feel like we really ramped it up and realized every single rep in practice matters. And so now I feel like we're using that momentum, like I said, from last week's week of work to carry into this week, which has been good.
I asked you in the spring whether it felt like Coach Day and y'all had like a different bent to you going into that Georgia game, kind of, not just playing crazy, but letting it all hang out, playing, using everything you've got and stuff. And you said, yeah, you kind of noticed that too, even through the spring and stuff. Do you feel that way going into this game? And how equipped are you now, mentally and physically, to let it all hang out, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the mentality you want to have. And I think regardless of who you're playing, that should be kind kind of your mindset is just going out there and, not holding anything back. And I feel like when you put in a lot of work on and off the field and you feel confident with what you're going to do, I think you earn the right to do that. I think if you try to cheat it and take shortcuts, I don't think you can go out there and truly play free and play as fast as you want to. But with the work week that we've put in so far, I think that everybody will have the confidence to go out there on Saturday night and just let it fly. We went on like a service trip my freshman year of high school, but that's really the only time. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Was there a game in high school, going back to that time where you felt had a lot of magnitude or anything, like sort of like the biggest game you ever played in, sort of feeling in high school that tested your poise or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say probably my junior year, we opened up at Marietta in Georgia, and they were a really talented team. They won the state championship that year in Georgia, and it was the opening game in their new stadium on ESPN, high school game on ESPN. So it was kind of the same magnitude at that stage, I would say. A primetime game on national television, I would say, would probably be the biggest comparison.
Marvin thought you looked poised too, like the year before, I guess, against you played at school St. Francis.
Yeah, our freshman, our sophomore year. Yep.
I thought you were like pretty cool, like calm for that.
Yeah. I think that was our first game together. My first start of high school against a really talented team, and obviously, going in that game, you don't know what you have until you actually go out there in the field. But I felt, like I kind of eased into that game pretty well for being 15 years old, whatever it was.
How do you kind of like maintain that? Like you want to be composed, front line, like for these type of starts. Like how do you maintain that?
Yeah, I feel like it's all about a balance. I think you want to have, like you said, enough composure and kind of a calm sense about you that, if something doesn't go our way or whatever, the guys know that, everything's going to be all right. We're going to work it out. But at the same time, I think you want to have kind of that fiery competitive side to you as well. And being able to push the guys and continue to lead in that way. So I think it's just all about finding that balance. Yeah, they're both really talented. I actually played against Cam Hart in high school. We played them my sophomore year, and then obviously seeing them last year. They've done a really good job, I think, just getting better every single game. I think you turn in the film and you can tell they're playing with confidence, and they're playing fast in that system, and they do a good job. They're two really talented guys. That secondary is really good, so I think it's going to be our best test yet. Mm-hmm.
I guess how does I know you don't play in that game, but still having like some of that institutional knowledge of knowing what's like to prepare for this team at least, how does that help you?
Yeah, I think last year was a little different because it was the first game of the year, and especially in the first game of the year when you're watching film from last year, I think you have to watch everything with a grain of salt because obviously it's going to be new players in there, and they might have new plays that they might run, schemes, stuff like that. But I think that definitely has helped. And then, obviously playing them last year and seeing what they tried to do to stop us and, kind of how they call a defense and the flow of the game and all that has been good. So I think just using that knowledge and just trying to carry it over to this year, but obviously taking it with a grain of salt, like I said, because, there's some new players in there that we didn't see last year and some new calls. So I think everything has been good, but, I think you just have to watch it, like I said, with a grain of salt.
Seems like two more questions. Coach Hartline are giving you a fair amount of option plays where you're making that pre-snap or post-snap kind of decision on what is your comfort level with diagnosing those kind of things? I know you did it a lot in the prep, but obviously there's bigger, faster, stronger athletes out here when those close earlier here. So how have you built that up, I guess, with
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is one, getting those reps in practice, and then two, seeing it on film and being able to anticipate throws and, like you said, anticipate those windows opening because, they open and close a lot faster. But I think just the more and more reps, the more and more experience I'm getting, the more and more I feel comfortable. So, I feel like they're doing a great job of putting me in positions to be successful with those play calls.
Last question.
I think it honestly depends on the grass. I think the best grass I've ever played on, I would say was probably Penn State was pretty good last year for the most part, but then there are other places where the grass might be long or, just you don't feel great on it. But I feel like the turf just all around, especially in the Big Ten, is pretty consistent. But I would say good grass is better than turf, but I think overall just turf because you kind of know what you're going to get with it.
All right, Kyle,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gonna have to suspend Nathan. 2 weeks.
Bye-week count or
Right,
not?
right. Right. No, that one question you got to.
Better than a good anything.
And then, yeah, we'll put, yeah. It's coming right here in the middle, buddy. Cage, your biggest advice to this team so far this week has been what about this?
That's a really good question. God, I don't know. We're just trying to, put ourselves in the game every single rep in practice, and that game there's no do-overs, so we're trying to make emulate that in practice for us, and every single rep matters, even if it's practice.
Yeah, I would think you're taking maybe a little bit of census to see if that's actually happening among your teammates and stuff. What have you been pleased with the attention you've seen out there?
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think we've had a good week of practice so far. Still some things to clean up so far, and we're going to get that done before Saturday. But we've done good up to this point.
Okay, last year, this was the opener. This year, fourth game. Do you think that's an advantage for you guys this year in the sense that you had to break in a quarterback, you had to break in 3 new linemen, you had a chance to kind of get your legs under you a little bit, and obviously last week was probably a confidence booster.
I don't know.
Difference?
No, I don't really think so. I think they had to break in a quarterback too, and they got good players. So we got good players. So I think we can play them in the parking lot. Still be a good game.
Cade Marv was talking about how he loves playing on the road. He likes like that villain kind of mantra. Are you like that too, or is it not matter?
I just like to play ball anywhere. I really could care less. To be honest with you.
How much have you seen Kyle? This is kind of obtuse question. How much have you seen Kyle improve from day one as a starter until through last week and now? Just having a starter, but also a leader. What stands out about the progress he's made in that regard?
He's done a really good job. Like anybody in the world, once you know, hey, you're our guy, just naturally you become more of a leader, just like that. And I think he's done a really good job. I think last week it was really good for him, really good for the team. He's starting to hit his stride at the right time, and hopefully we're starting to hit ours.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you don't want to talk about it. You want to feel like, I would think, as an offensive player and even as a team, y'all don't huddle, but you want to feel like that guy is ready for the moment, right?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it that he's ready for the moment.
The thing everybody talks about with Kyle is his poise. Was that something you noticed at some point along the way that his poise, composure was something that stood out?
Yeah, I think he's all around good person, all around good guy to play for and play with. So, yeah, if you want to call it poise, you want to call it composure. Yeah, I think he has all the above.
You talked about this offseason running with skilled players, kind of changing your body a little bit. Now that you're 3 games in, how does it feel for you running in space? Does it feel different than it did previous years? You're lighter, you seem a little bit faster. So it kind of helps you in those aspects of it. But then again, just kind of comes down to coming down with the ball and making the most of it when you can get it.
Okay, those last 8 minutes of the second quarter last week, was that proof to you guys what can happen if you guys were all hitting on the same page, same cylinders? You know what I'm talking about. What did that prove, I guess, to the team about what y'all are capable of?
Yeah, I think that just shows if we can put the pieces together and put them together at the right time, we can do some good things. But we got to make sure we're still clicking on all cylinders, and there's no time to take a breath of fresh air and relax. It's pedal to the metal, and those are the grindstone here.
You keep throwing the ball to 8.
If I'm open.
Do you prefer to play on turf or grass?
I like playing on grass myself. I high school field is grass, so like it seems to be less injuries on grass too. So that's always a good thing for everybody.
And what drew you to the tight end position?
What's that?
What drew you to the tight end position?
Oh God, absolutely nothing. They said I might be good at it, and now here I am.
That's a long story we got coming.
Yeah, that's it. You don't have that much time, trust me. I don't either.
Hey, just with this defense that Notre Dame has, what are the biggest things that you see that you guys are going to need to do well in order to have success against it?
They play hard, good defense, coach very well. A lot of credit to those guys, but we just every play you got rules, so it doesn't matter what somebody throws at you. You got your rules. You got to do this. You got to do that. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who moves the line of scrimmage. So if we can move the line of scrimmage, we'll be in good shape. If they move the line of scrimmage, we're going to be in dog for a dogfight.
Did you watch them on video this week? Is there anything that looks a little bit different about their defense? Are they a little more aggressive now? I mean, obviously that was the first year of Marcus Freeman and his staff last year, but is there anything that, from a nuance standpoint, they've kind of changed?
I think last year they played hard. I think this year they played really, really hard again. It's just going to come down to finishing the last 20% of that play and who finishes the last 20%, really.
The games they played so far, what is the game that's caught your eye or that you focused on that's most like, what they made play against y'all? Was it North Carolina State? I mean, or do y'all even break it up like that?
No, we break down every game. We watched last year's film and see how they attacked us, how we attacked them, and just take bits and pieces from them, who they played this year, and just try and put together a good game plan. I think we have that.
Hey, Mark was saying that he played with an injured ankle last year. Have you seen anything different from him in terms of explosion now that he is fully healthy this year?
When last year he played with,
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't remember. Jesus, I don't know. Everybody's playing with a sprained ankle. No, but yeah, I mean, he's Marvin, as you see on Saturday. It's a really, really good player. I never really saw much of a lack of explosion though from him ever, but maybe he did have an ankle. I don't know.
Is it weird seeing Javante on the other side of things watching film?
Yeah, I mean, Javante, good kid, good player, but then again, really doesn't matter if I know him or not, to be honest with you.
When you were a young guy, maybe not a little guy even then, but when you were a young guy, these are the kind of games you definitely want to watch on television. You understand what I'm saying? State Notre Dame, that kind of premier. What is it like knowing you're playing in something like that? I mean, obviously you've done that already with big time games, but everybody's going to be watching. They want to see what this Ohio State team is really all about, right?
Right.
What was it like watching those games now, and what's it like being in them?
God, to be honest with you, sometimes you get so focused on doing everything else that you don't really think about that. But if you do sit back and take a breath and think about that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of 10 years ago, you'd be like, God, I'd kill to play in this game. Now you're here, so trying to make the most of it, really. But it's definitely a good feeling.
You guys are going into a road environment for a big game like this. As a team captain, kind of what's the biggest message to the younger guys on the team?
Same game we played since we were 6 years old, growing up in the backyard. You can't make it bigger what it is, but you also can't minimize anything about it. So it's a fine line you walk there, but you can't play uptight. You can't play nervous.
Kate, Coach Hartline was saying there was like a battle royale between the teams. You might be the last guy standing. So like toughness and everything. Physicality is not a problem with you. Like blocking. What is the biggest thing about blocking in your opinion?
Blocking's like a fist fight. Sometimes you want to get whacked, and then other times, hopefully, you do the majority of it. But regardless, it's really going to come down to, like, I try to look at it like a Rocky movie, really. Like, every single movie that dude's getting his ass busted, but he always comes back. He's always back up, at the end of it. So realistically, I'm going to take my shots. They're going to take their shots, and I might get it a few times, but I'm sure I'm going to get everything I got a few times too.
Music going on in the back of your head?
What's that?
Yeah, music going on in the back of your head like that.
Love Rocky music. Love the training montage in Russia. What more do you want?
All right, Kate. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
I'll resend it, but is it okay?
Yeah.
Each on the farm? Okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
No start. No start.
So I have a game.
What did you learn today from Stover Farms? Some the weird decision about them. Really long. That's awesome. That is awesome. Might be with him. Summer's I guess to say, yeah. That's their weak point. That's the case. Notre Dame is going to be better than the big seeds. Yeah. Yep. You have to feel pretty good with it. It is really, they really do have some noise. Questionable.
Second.
Marty legs are hot. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr and Kevin Noon behind the scenes. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is. We're what, 3 days? This is not a.
I don't know how you
a
count
Buckeye
days.
tomorrow morning,
So
we're like 3 days away from one of the biggest games of the year in college football, and. I think I said this last week, but this is another week where you get to Wednesday night and it's like, oh, the game's almost here suddenly. I don't know how that happened. Well, I guess it's been a busy week full of content for us, and which is good for us and good for the viewers.
got one day to get everything done that we were supposed to get done for the week. So that is always fun.
Yes, and then we will be in South Bend on Friday, and good news, that will be more content.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I heard a Notre Dame writer on a national radio show saying this could be the biggest game, the biggest thing in South Bend since the Bush push, as long as the game turns out okay. That was 2005.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, I mean, if we have an ending like that, that would be okay.
I'm thinking through. Yeah, I mean, that might be a little bit retroactively kind of the Georgia was there in 2017, and that was a pretty good Georgia team. I think some of the other games might have felt bigger in the moment and then not ended up quite as big. But yeah, I mean, this is two top 10 teams. It's two of the. I mean, I don't know. I just saw one of those stupid, like, here's exactly how many fans each team has kind of things. And I think Ohio State and Notre Dame were like in the top 3. Ohio State's number 1 by a million miles, but I think Notre Dame was kind of top 3. 2 historic brands, huge win totals. Like, yeah, this is one of those weeks where you hear football players, many of them say, yeah, this is the reason you come to fill in the blank school is to play in games like this.
2 of the best defenses in the nation, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing about that right now. And I say 2 of the best defenses in the nation. When you look at the best offense that either of these 2 teams have played, statistically, is North Carolina State.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make you go,
Well, I think this is a kind of prove it week, I think, where you go through a bunch of the national defensive statistics and yards per play allowed and that kind of stuff. And these teams are like 1-2, 3, 2-4, 3-4, top 5 in a lot of stuff and top 10 and even more stuff. But you look at the competition they've played and it's like, they're doing what they should be doing. And, Ohio State, you go back over the years, there are plenty of Ohio State defenses that have gotten just lit up by not very good defenses, not very good offenses. I go back to 2018, and they gave up like 31 to Oregon State, and that was not a good Oregon State team. And it was kind of like, so now you look at that, they give up 0 second half points through 3 weeks, and it's like, yeah, but it was only Indiana and Youngstown State and Western Kentucky. But it's like, yeah, but that's still 0. You literally cannot do better than 0 second half points.
Well, and the reason Western Kentucky is ranked below like NC State is because they played Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to fit these 2. All of these offenses have played a good defense that has hindered their numbers. So it is Wednesday evening as we record this, as we stream live. We talked with 8 to 10 Buckeyes. I know that I spoke with Travion Henderson, and I only spoke with 2 people at my table. I should remember the second one, but it's not important who we spoke to, Tom. What is important is neither one of us were at Kyle McCord's table, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. Kevin was there. Speaking of Kevin, if you've got questions, go ahead and throw them in. Super chats, throw them in. We will get to them. I have all my notes. Oh, Josh Proctor was at the middle table. That was good. Travion Henderson and Tyleek Williams is who I got.
Okay, well, I got Donovan Jackson and Sonny Styles and wide receiver something or other Harrison. I don't remember what his name was.
Marvison, as they say in the press box. Marvison Harrison, Junior son.
I had Proctor, McCord, and Stover.
Yeah, Proctor, McCord, and Stover. So is that 8, 9 guys? It was a good haul today. Sometimes it's 5 or 6. Last week over at my table 3, I didn't get anybody. So I got 2 players today. You'll always take that. Kate Stover, we talk to him constantly all the time. Said, in terms of, is this a big game? He's like, you can't make it any bigger than any other game. It's the same game they've been playing since they were 6 years old. So you don't want to make too much of it. And he also said that if we played in a parking lot, it'd still be a good game.
And it's funny because Donovan, you sort of get the you pick up these trends of what these guys are saying to each other behind the scenes, because Donovan Jackson talked about the fact that he was talking to some of the other younger offensive linemen about the fact that this is the same game you've been playing since you were 7 years old. So apparently the offensive line got a little bit of a late start, but it's the same game you've been playing since since you were 7 years old. It's just the guys across the line are a little faster and you're a little bit stronger, but it's, it's the same thing. And, I think that's just sort of a way to sort of mentally approach the week. And it's, measuring the rims in the gym in Hoosiers, like, hey, it's
Hickory.
Yeah. It's the same, it's the same game. There aren't rouges all of a sudden. It's the same game, and you got to just go in and not try and make the moment bigger than it is.
So the first guy out was Josh Proctor, which is interesting because last year's game, he was also the first guy out of the game after making a mistake. And so I think it was Tim May asked him, like, so man, you excited about the mulligan that you're going to get, and
it's a pretty good Tim.
Yeah, thank you. and he's like, he said he's looking forward to this as a stepping stone. And so the question is like, stepping stone to what? He's like, you guys all saw last year. You saw what happened in that game last year. So this is something that he's looking forward to. He's been playing as well as anybody on defense for the Buckeyes this year. He's more confident than he was last year because he knows what he's doing. Says he's more level-headed, and he knows his job. Everybody knows their job, and so you don't have to do more than you're supposed to. You just do your job, and everything else falls into place. And so that's what he's doing right now. And if he has a good game on Saturday, I really, really like Ohio State's chances in this one.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where, if you tell me Kyle McCord throws 6 touchdown passes, like, yeah, of course they're going to win. If you tell me that Josh Proctor grades out as a champion, I don't know that I guarantee that, that guarantees that they win, but that's one of those things that would be like, okay, in my mind, the point spread is shifting by about a field goal or maybe more than that, just based on solely on that piece of information. Because he's someone who, if he's playing a good game, that means he's probably active in the run game, because you've got to be active in the run game. Audric Estime, you've got to have, I think Sonny Styles was talking about, you've got to gang tackle, you've got to get him to the ground. Josh Proctor is probably a part of that because he comes downhill very hard off from that safety spot. But also, if you're grading out as a champion, that means you don't have a bunch of stuff going over your head.
That's the key.
And, you got to crash at the right times, but then you also got to stay back at the right times and not get sucked in on that play action. If he has a good game, that is a very, you give me 3 keys to the game. Josh Proctor grades out as a champion is one of those keys.
Yeah, if that happens, like I said, because you don't want to give up just a big, cheap chunk of yards, and they did that last year. And if they don't do that in this one, and they make Notre Dame fight for it and just scrap for every yard, every first down, then that's something that builds confidence in the defense. Unless, of course, they continue to pick up these third downs. Yeah. But as long as you're not giving up the big yards, and really, I think Josh Proctor is a lot of that. And he's just one guy. But it's just the and I keep saying the play action that concerns me in terms of what we still don't quite know about this defense. And that's where I go, is the play action, because they haven't faced a running attack that the safeties need to help out with as much as they may in this one.
Well, and can Josh Proctor be Jordan Fuller?
Yeah.
Can Josh Proctor even be 85% of Jordan Fuller? Because if he can, that's something that Ohio State has been missing at times on the back end of that defense. It's just that eraser in the back end where stuff just doesn't get past you. Because we just rewatched the North Carolina State game, which that episode went up on the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed on Wednesday night, just a few hours ago if you're watching live. And if you're listening, you can go back one episode on the feed. We are having one of those weeks where it's like, there are more episodes than there are days. So
choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
If you would like to read this back.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think we noticed in that North Carolina State game, and we watched that because that's obviously by far the best team that Notre Dame's played so far, is when Notre Dame was moving the ball, it was 80-yard run by Estime. It was 54-yard dump off in the flat to Tyree. It was a 45-yard, just a little crosser, and then 30 yards of WHAC that turns it into a 45-yard gain. Because Sam Hartman was something like 15 of 24 or something like that, 13 to 24. It was like 62% completion, but it was like 11.9 yards per catch, because when he hit one, it turned into a big play because they weren't getting guys down on the ground. If you can get those Notre Dame receivers on the ground and make them have to drive and be methodical, that puts a lot of pressure on them to continually execute if they can't get things in chunks.
Talking with Tyleek Williams, obviously the Notre Dame offensive line was a point of emphasis for this defense. And he mentioned, Joe Alt's good. And he's like, well, they're all good. He's just like the lead, the ringleader of them. And we'll get to that in a bit. Kevin, Super Chat.
Ryan Dawes, what side of the ball for Notre Dame will be a bigger challenge for OSU and vice versa?
Which side of the ball will be a bigger challenge for Ohio State and Notre Dame and vice versa? Which side of the ball? Biggest challenge, I'm going to say, for Notre Dame will be the Ohio State offense, because they can threaten you in so many different ways. The talent, I just feel like the talent level is a little bit higher for Ohio State skill positions than some of the guys that they'll be facing against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has some very talented defensive players. But if you're asking me to put somebody up against, compare anybody to like Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison, I'm going to choose those guys over almost anybody they're facing in college football. So I think that offense, the Ohio State offense, poses the biggest challenge. And we talk about the play action with Notre Dame, but don't forget about the play action with Ohio State, because they'll be able to dial it up. They want to get started fast, get the running game going. opens up the passing game. But this is also a quarterback that is confident and a coach now who is confident in calling a bunch of passes early to maybe open up the run. And so I'm thinking the entire offense will be available to Kyle McCord, which is maybe not what Notre Dame would like to hear.
Yeah, and on the other side, I think the Notre Dame defense might be a bigger challenge to Ohio State than the Notre Dame offense. I think the Notre Dame offense is good, solid. I think you've got a veteran quarterback in Sam Hartman that's not going to make the big mistake. And so you are going to have to earn getting them off the field, just like they're going to have to earn picking up those first downs. But I think the stronger of the two units is the Notre Dame defense. I mean, 10 of the 11 guys are seniors or grad students. That is a very, very veteran, experienced defense. You got the same coordinator as you did last year, Al Golden, you're the head coach. Marcus Freeman, obviously a defensive guy himself. Like you've got another year in the scheme, another year with all the same terminology, another year with a lot of the same players. I think of all the units on the field, I think the Ohio State offense might be the most talented. And if you tell me only one team is going to score 40 points, I don't think it's likely either team scores 40 points. But if you tell me one team's going to score 40 points, I'm going to say Ohio State real fast. I don't think it's super likely that they do, but I think the Ohio State defense and the Notre Dame defense are both very good. And the Ohio State offense has maybe the highest ceiling of all of them. But a lot of that's going to hinge on how the offensive line plays. And how is that going to go? I don't know.
I was impressed by the Notre Dame secondary watching them on Wednesday. Which secondary do you think has the advantage in a tail of the tape, not against who they're facing, but which secondary, because Ohio State secondary is playing really, really well right now. But is this a push? I mean, is it
probably close to a push? I mean, Marvin Harrison talked about Benjamin Morrison, he was a freshman All-American last year, second-year guy this year. I think he's very good. And Harrison talked about the fact he plays at the boundary a lot, so Harrison is expecting to face him a lot. I think if your best corner is a sophomore and Ohio State's best corner is a junior, I'm probably going to side with the junior. And Ohio State, the corner on the other side of the field, Davis Nabinosin, he's pretty darn solid. Jordan Hancock in the nickel spot or Sonny Styles in the nickel spot, pretty darn solid. And, Lathan Ransom, Josh Proctor, you've got a veteran unit out there for the most part. And I think I'd go slight edge Ohio State. But those are, the fact that we're even having this conversation tells you this is a very, very good Notre Dame secondary.
Yeah, because Ohio State secondary has been fantastic. I'm not quite to the point where I'm a complete believer, because I just want to see this one more thing, the defending the play action. But everything we've seen from the safeties, Proctor, Ransom, Sonny, you want to throw Jordan Hancock in as the nickel, like the weak spot, I don't even want to call it the weak spot. Jordan Hancock has been giving up the most catches because he's learning, he's playing a different position. He's still coming into his own, but the safeties have been really, really good. Like if I'm watching from the Notre Dame side, and I've only seen, and I just pick one Ohio State game to watch, and I watch these safeties, I'm thinking these guys are really, really good. Now we've seen them play last year where they made some mistakes, so it's like that's hard to forget. But if you're just watching, you just pick a random game, say Western Kentucky, you're like, where is the weakness on this Ohio State secondary? You're probably going to say, well, they need to target Jordan Hancock. I'm not sure that's actually going to be very productive.
Well, and Jordan Hancock's going to be on the field maybe half the time. I mean, my sense is that when Notre Dame's in a 12 personnel kind of setup, you're going to see Sonny Styles out there, because Styles talked about the fact that when the tight end is easier to run with speed wise for him, than the little short shifty. Yeah, I mean, this is not exactly. It's good to hear him say that out loud, and it's like, okay, because these are the things that I've been thinking for a long time, and the things that I think you go back into August, and I was kind of saying like, well, I kind of want to see him try and run with the speedy slot guy, because if it's Tyree out there, it's a 5'9" guy. That's a Jordan Hancock matchup. If it's one of the tight ends, then that's a Sonny Styles matchup. And he said, if you can, some of those slots are super fast, but I can do better when I can get my hands on them. So, you're going to see him covering a little short, speedy slot guy at some point, I'm going to guess. He may also be back at that bandit spot at some point as well. And, he said that's where when he came in, that's where he started. So that's a position he's gotten some experience there. This is not just like, and now you're in a different spot altogether. You've never played before. He's got some experience there. So if you end up having Hancock out there and you move Styles to the bandit spot in place of Latham Ransom, that's, that sounds like something that he's not super concerned about.
Neither you or I got to talk to Kyle McCord, but we talked to guys who talked about Kyle McCord.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Travion Henderson said that was about the last week of camp, you just saw a different Kyle McCord in terms of leadership, mentality, like not mentality, but just like the team sort of became his at that point. And it was over those final 2 weeks of fall practice where, we had heard that he just taken off, and that's where he had separated from Devin Brown on the field, but just the command over the offense, leadership amongst his teammates. It was like that last week that Travion Henderson said, that's where he noticed it, because somebody asked him, did you notice it in the week leading up to Western Kentucky? Because that's when he was named a starter. He's like, honestly, it was like the last week of fall practice when it really became evident that this guy is the next guy. And now he is the guy, the present guy. And anytime we ask somebody about him, they always talk about how calm he is, how he doesn't get rattled. Losing a fumble in a game didn't rattle him. Throwing a bad pass on third down that should have been a first down doesn't rattle him because he comes back and completes it for fourth down. So the demeanor that he has rubs off on his teammates, and it gives them confidence as well.
Well, and Donovan Jackson talked about the fact that Kyle McCord has always been a voice in that locker room. He just has a bigger platform now, but he said he is always all the same stuff you heard about CJ Stroud, you heard about Justin Fields. First one in, last one to leave. Donovan Jackson said he will, be like walking out, and then Kyle McCord's like in the hot tub watching film, and he's like, dude, you gotta go home. You can't. And he said he just pretends not to hear me. Just stays there working.
I walked over as he said that, and I wasn't sure if he was talking about Kyle McCord or John Cooper.
Yeah. Need Kyle towels for the game on Saturday. Marvin Harrison has a little bit of a different perspective on Kyle McCord because, of course, he has been Marvin Harrison's quarterback many times before the last few weeks. Said he's the same every game. Like and you sort of get the sense when he's on the sideline, he's always seems like he's quiet and focused. Like he's not necessarily the guy who's running around being rah-rah. He's just kind of locked in, and he's always just very kind of serious, a little bit stoic at times. But he said calm and collected, but prepares harder than anyone else. And said his high school sophomore year, Kyle McCord's first start, sophomore year, played against St. Francis from Maryland, which is a top 5 team in the nation. He's a first-time starter, still just kind of a calm, collected guy. That's just how he's been for of several years. I did see, was it your tweet? I think that I saw something today that Sam Hartman's first college start came before Kyle McCord got his driver's license.
Oh, really?
It was like, wow. That put some things in perspective. Marvin Harrison said he loves playing on the road. He said he likes the villain mentality on the road, which that's, you think about guys, when you're thinking about guys coming in and doing the villain mentality thing in your team stadium, I'm sure Ohio State fans don't love it when J.J. McCarthy does that, like comes in last year and does the villain mentality thing. I have a feeling Ohio State fans will love it if Marvin Harrison is playing the villain on Saturday night.
They'd love it even more if it's their quarterback doing it, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Ohio State released the video of, was it pregame, postgame, Kyle McCord getting after it in the locker room, like a week or so ago. A very emotional pregame speech, getting his guys fired up so that everybody on the outside could see what those guys on the inside see. And yeah, those two, and then little Emeka Buka just in the background running around, say, hey, throw it to me once or twice, guys. And I can't wait to see, because Notre Dame has some really good corners. Like a guy like Christian Gray that Ohio State was hard after, is like in the 2 deep, and he got to play a little bit less against North Carolina State, but they've got some talent in that secondary. It's going to be a fantastic matchup. But Ohio State's offensive line holds up, then that makes me like Ohio State's skill chances even more.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to depend on what happens in those trenches. One thing that Marvin Harrison got asked about was this got just kind of like casually mentioned on the broadcast last week, apparently, but he sprained his ankle last year. It was week 2 against Arkansas State. He said he got rolled up during a long pass. He said he just had to manage it. He just played with it all year. And he said he felt it every game. He couldn't really plant on one leg. Feels good in his ankle to accelerate and decelerate now, but last year it was really cutting and decelerating were the issues. And so that was Marvin Harrison playing on one leg last year. So, two legs, arguably, like 100% better.
Yeah, 2 Heismans. That's what I'm saying. The health of the guys from compared to last year. I mean, you talk about Travion Henderson, more confident and than he's ever been. Somebody asked him, like, are you more like confident and do you feel better about things? And he's like, yeah, I think I do. And,
like it hasn't occurred to him before.
You're right. It is true, and that's a guy that was injured from the second or third game of the season last year. It has been good to go now. Tyleik Williams, who I also talked with, obviously injured on the first day of fall camp, his knee, and it's still. And it's not an issue. It's there. He's playing through it and is happy to play through it. Loves playing as much as he does. Getting 50 snaps. I think this last game more than he's ever had. I wonder how many 2 games in a row he's had 50 snaps in his career, because it's probably not many. But he also credited it to not just being in shape for it, but the film study, because he knows more what's going on. And I asked him, when did that kick in that you need that film study? And he's like, it's like the first game of the season when he realized how much work he put in and the results that came from it. And so now he wants more film, and is always watching it, and is a much different player in terms of just that aspect. Everybody's going to credit the ability to play more snaps. And he's like, he was never winded against Western Kentucky. He said he could, he obviously they take them out, but the tempo never got to him. He was fine. He was good to go. And I think that all of those are, music to Buckeye fans' ears.
Well, it's just sort of a sign of growth. You have different guys. You have the guys who come in like Marvin Harrison with the work ethic and mentality on day one, and those guys really stand out because that is not the norm. When you get a guy like that, everyone kind of goes, whoa, and starts talking about him immediately, and those guys turn into Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson or Marvin Harrison or someone like that. Some guys come in and it takes a while. Josh Proctor is maybe a little bit of a takes a while guy in some ways. Tyleik Williams is maybe a little bit of a takes a while guy in some ways, where you've been the best football player on the field pretty much every game your whole life, and now you're in college, and now that's not true anymore, and it takes a little while, and then it's like, okay, well, certainly next year that will be my time to shine, and then it's like, well, no, it's not necessarily your time to shine next year. Sometimes it takes 3 years or even more. And Donovan Jackson was asked about Tyleik Williams and his growth, and he looked deadpan straight at the person who asked it. Did he tell you to ask me that? Which is, he said, yeah, he's had tremendous growth. He obviously goes up against Tyleik a lot during practice. Just thought that was, a very maybe honest moments. One of those kind of peek behind the curtain kind of moments.
We'll get to the super chat. I'll give you another peek behind the curtain. Somebody asked Tyleik Williams about his touchdown celebration where he rubbed his belly and he's like, I got that from, and he pointed over at CJ Hicks, and CJ Hicks is like, yeah. so it's teamwork makes the dream work.
All right, super chat
from Jordan Kapler, so you can guess where this one's going.
All right,
Kevin is the worst. Go on.
Thank you, Jordan.
Kevin keeps lying and saying he has no control over player interview availability when we demanded Steel Chambers. Grounds for firing?
Okay, so Kevin claiming falsely that he has no control over player availability. We certainly would like to have Steel Chambers every week, just as Jordan would. I mean, you would as well, right?
I wish Kevin wasn't so against it every week.
Well, he does hate fun.
He does hate fun, and he hates theoretical animal questions and
everything that is good in life.
Yeah, but that's Kevin. that's like a sitcom. That's Kevin.
Laugh track.
Boo track.
We talked about the importance of the offensive line in this game, and Donovan Jackson talked a lot about that. Matt Jones is the senior guy in the room, but I think Donovan Jackson might be the more vocal guy in the room. Matt Jones has just always been a quiet dude. He is a big, strong dude. He goes out, he does his job. That's just not that's not how he goes about his day. Donovan Jackson talked about the fact that, this is one of these games where strain is, 80% of the games, 80% of the plays, look the same, and the other 20% define the game. You don't get a lot of plays. You have to make the most of them. Strain is like that last 20% of plays doing that and finishing. And, he didn't necessarily, like Justin Freilas, we talked about violence, and he said it wasn't necessarily that they were violent. He felt that they executed at a higher clip than the previous 2 weeks. They improved a lot, still a lot more to improve against a very talented Notre Dame front. Every day they tell each other what they're working on and what they need to get better at, what they're working, they're working on their craft and what they're working on to improve every day. This is a work in progress offensive line, and you've seen progress already. This is a week when they need to take it. Last week was a step. They need to take another step this week in order to win in South Bend.
Yeah, and we'll get to the super chat. The advancement of the sustaining blocks from game 2 to game 3, that needs to continue that from game 3 to game 4. Kevin.
Super chat, glass swing butterfly. We were about to riot if Steele wasn't interviewed, but we mellowed out at the last second.
It's always good to mellow out at the last second. Don't want to let emotions get the better of you. It is just football interviews. It's not. If it was football, yes, get emotional, get upset. If it was traffic, yes, of course, get emotional, get upset. This is just football interviews on a Wednesday. Perhaps we will get to talk to Steele Chambers after the game. And if it's an emotional game, somebody will ask him something dumb and off the wall, and he'll be there for 7 minutes. And then you'll have that. So look forward to that. And we won't have anybody next week, but I'm guessing we'll have Steele Chambers the week after that, because it'll have been a while since we talked to him.
I'm just kind of scrolling through my notes. The last thing I had was, Marvin Harrison talking about how moving him around helps the whole offense, makes it harder to plan for them. He's not just always outside on the boundary side. You put him in the slot, that creates a different matchup. Moving the Emeka Egbuka from inside to outside, that creates a different matchup. That, and you've seen that. We've talked about that a bunch this year, but that's one of those things that you look at it and you go, I wonder if they're doing this to create matchups. The answer is, yes, they're doing this to create matchups, which they view as favorable. And guess what? It has worked a bunch already this year.
Talking to Cade Stover about blocking, he said, blocking is like a fist fight, Tom. And you're basically, I think the next line was like, sometimes you're going to get walloped, And then he also said, it's like a Rocky movie. It's just everybody's just beating the crap out of each other. And then I think it was our buddy Tim May. He said, you got a soundtrack in the back of your mind there? And he's like, yeah, it's the montage from Rocky IV when he's in Russia. So that's the stuff that we get here.
You know what they say, Tony? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Except in this case, we're going to get a super chat.
Super chat, Murphy Serafino. If you had to pick one player from each side of the ball that needs to have their best game, who would it be minus McCord?
Okay, so pick one player from each side of the ball that has their best game minus Kyle McCord. I mean, we talked about Josh Proctor earlier. I think Josh Proctor's a good answer and might be my answer. But boy, if JT Tuimoloau could top his performance against Penn State last year, that feels like that's kind of cheating, but also would be my answer.
If you can find somebody to beat Chase Young, and that could be JT Tuimoloau, that wrecks a lot of things. I was thinking Steele Chambers and tackling Audric Estime when he's got an opportunity to, and limiting him to 1 or 2 yards, as opposed to maybe missing a tackle. Now that becomes 8 yards. If they can, because I expect Tommy Eichenberg to be pretty good, and if they can get the best game possible out of Steele Chambers, now that's just a linebacker. I think you'd rather have somebody up front, to just create a bunch of havoc. So look what Mike Hall did last year. So I might go, if you're going to take JT, I might go Mike Hall, because he's a guy that he can rush the passer, he can defend the run, and he gets back there so quickly. The other side, I may have to go with Audric Estime, the Notre Dame running back. If he controls this game, then he's going to keep the third down shorter. He's going to keep Ohio State off the field. So he might be my pick there. Although if you go with Joe Alt to limit whoever is rushing against him. But I'll go Estime there because if he goes for 150.
Yeah. Well, if he goes for 150, then that probably, your paths to victory for Ohio State are much more limited if he's going for 150 because that sets up so much stuff in the passing game as well. I think the question was really a guy on the Ohio State offense to have his best game.
Okay.
To me, that might be Josh Simmons. If we're not saying Kyle McCord, I think Josh Simmons would be someone where if he has his best game and there's no penalties and there's no pass rush on the blind side and you're getting some good push and short yardage over there. I think that, if Travion Henderson has his best game, that probably sort of by proxy means the offensive line is having a pretty good game. So you're kind of cheating there. But just in terms of like this one guy, and all I can tell you is this one guy by himself without any external factors plays his best game. I think I might go with Josh Simmons just because I think that offensive line is going to be so important on Saturday.
I might go Carson Hinsman, with the interior and getting the calls right. And all of the communication is perfect, which is going to be very difficult to do. I wonder a bunch of silence going on, hand signals and things like that. So if they can get the very best out of Carson Hinsman in a hostile environment, an environment where you should not be playing your very best, and your fourth career start. So I might go. I'll say Carson Hinsman. I will see your Josh Simmons, and raise you a Carson Hinsman.
Now I did not poke my head out the door when we first got here, but I didn't hear piped-in crowd noise from the field. And normally, I think you can hear that. We were waiting out in the lobby of the Woody, and you had Kevin shaking his head no as well. So, yeah, I would have expected this to be a crowd noise thing, but maybe that's a Thursday practice kind of thing. But yeah, I was sort of expecting to come in hearing crowd noise and didn't. I was a little surprised by that.
Kevin, we got any questions in there?
We got a lot of them, so we'll have to kind of go.
All right, rapid fire.
Lightning round.
Guys, one answer per person.
Yakov 22. What % of the stadium will be Ohio State fans?
What % of the stadium will be Ohio State fans? I say 30.
10.
All right.
It's going to be. It is a absolutely difficult ticket to get.
It is a very tough
and a tough tickle.
RK. Question: Vibe of the players.
Vibe of the players. Excited, ready, and looking forward to this one. Like the Kate Stover is never really different. Like these guys are all pretty even keel, especially the guys we talked to today. And Kyle McCord is always even keel. So I'm just excited to play and would play this game anywhere. It doesn't really matter, according to what Kate Stover had to say.
Odysseus. Since Al Washington is the run D coordinator, do you suggest a heavy dose of Chip, Trey, and Mayan?
Since Al Washington, former Ohio State linebackers coach, is the run defense coordinator for Notre Dame, do you suggest a heavy dose of Chip Trayanum and Mayan Williams? I think a lot of that depends on how the offensive line plays. If they're able to move the ball with a heavy dose of run, I think that's probably big. If you don't tell me anything other than yards per carry, and Ohio State has more yards per carry than Notre Dame, I feel very, very, very good about Ohio State's chances. I think Ohio State's going to struggle to run the ball at times because I think this offensive line is still a work in progress, and the Notre Dame defense is smart and veteran and probably going to be bringing a bunch of stunts and twists and confusing the first time or the fourth time starter at center, Carson Hinsman. If Ohio State's able to run the ball, I think that's an enormously good sign for the Buckeyes.
Kevin?
Yes. Anthony Anderson was just checking out an ND Live podcast. These people are delusional. They think they'll completely blow us out.
Well, I guess my question would be who, the people in the comments or the people on the podcast? Because
is Ohio State, is this going to Purdue or an Iowa? I don't see Notre Dame as a Purdue or an Iowa, so I wouldn't worry about just a complete blowout. No, I would be very surprised. Now, Tom, you are very matter of fact when it comes to when blowouts are going to happen. So do you see a blowout happening in this one?
I don't think so. Unless you have a team that turns the ball over a bunch and you get a bunch of short fields, if this game kind of plays out the way I'm expecting it to, I think it's going to be relatively close, relatively low scoring. I'm expecting the winning team to maybe be in the high 20s for this one, which, unless you're shutting someone out, you're really not, unless it's 28-7, you're not really blowing someone out. And I think the Ohio State skill talent is too good for them to just get run off the field. And the defense is too good this year to get run off the field.
Kevin?
Yeah, next one. Wingman Ted. Does anyone want to really see Jaden Ballard as the full-time returner?
Does anybody want to see Jaden Ballard as the full-time returner? I think they just you want to see the guy who catches the ball. That's especially in this game. What good is a punt return touchdown if you also muff a punt and you give up a scoring drive as well?
That's Jalen Marshall.
Yeah, Jalen Marshall. There you go. Like, he was the last prolific punt returner at Ohio State, and he terrified people. And so I think right now you just catch the ball and go from there. Now maybe down the road, Jaden Ballard is a guy that is going to try to make something happen because he doesn't get to play. So that might be something for later down the road, but not in this one. Kevin?
Yeah, Drowsy Dragon. Do you think Trevion Henderson has a big game, and how big?
Do I think Trevion Henderson has a big game, and if so, how big? If Trevion Henderson runs for between 5.5 and 6 yards per carry, I would think that constitutes a big game for him. Now, the carries haven't really been there, so he might, that might be 12 carries for 70 yards or something like that, and that might be, if you're able to do that, that might be enough to, if you're consistently doing that, that might be enough to keep the defense honest enough to open things up down the field. I don't think they're winning this game solely on the ground. This is not a game where you're going to run for 250 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's not what this is. That's not what this offense is. That's not what this game is. But they just have to be consistent enough on the ground to be able to move keep the defense honest enough to move the ball downfield in chunks through the air. If you rip off a long one on the ground, great. But, I'm not expecting a 120-yard game from Trevion Henderson.
Yeah, you can almost set 120 yards at the team over under, and we'll get into that on the bold prediction show, I'm sure, in some form or fashion. Neither of us can wait. Kevin?
Yeah, let me see. Rich T, how do you think they're going to attack the left tackle for Notre Dame, Joe Alt?
How will they attack the left tackle from Notre Dame, Joe Alt? I don't know. Is this one of those situations where he's so good, so you just focus on the other side? Like when Iowa used to play Orlando Pace and not put a defensive end over him just because, what's the point? Obviously, Ohio State's not going to do that, but do you send a blitzer from that side as well, or do you just, here you go, JT, here you go, Jack, have at it, or you do some twists and things like that? I think you can't just do one thing. You do multiple things.
Right. I'm expecting stunts and twists and all that kind of stuff on that side. You're not, this is not Orlando Pace. They had a graphic on the broadcast of the North Carolina State game where he'd had 114 pass rush attempts against him and no quarterback hurries or something like that. But, this is not the greatest player in the history of football. You're probably, that is probably not, attacking him is probably not the game plan, but you're putting a guy over him. And then I think where they're going to have to go after is the middle of that Notre Dame defensive line. Maybe you're trying to get him, you're outside rushing him, trying to get him out so you can attack the middle of that line a little bit more.
Yeah, NC State had some success attacking the middle of the Notre Dame offensive line. Kevin?
3 more.
All right.
Here we go. Glasswing Butterfly. How much should we focus on the pass versus the run? Percentages?
How much should we focus on the pass versus the run in terms of
Ohio State play calls? Like Ohio State, how much is Ohio State throwing the ball versus running the ball?
They're going to try 50-50, but you adjust to what is working. And then if you're winning in the fourth quarter, you're going to be running the ball more. So I think it's just a feel. You go out there the first quarter, you've got your game plan of what you want to do. And it depends on what's working. And if the running game isn't working, then you can't just stick with the running game. So
right.
I don't you start at 50-50 and however it ends up, is based on what else is happening.
I'm expecting we look at the stat sheet at the end of the game and it's 55-45 pass to run Ohio State. And if it's 70-30, that's probably not good news. If it's 60-40 run, that's probably tremendous news for Ohio State.
Yep.
Or Odysseus, should we start 4 wide receivers to present a matchup advantage?
They really should Ohio State start 4 wide receivers to present a matchup advantage? They just really haven't done that. They really have been in. How often have we seen one back 4 wide receivers, 10 personnel in the last couple of years. I mean,
we did see, I think at the end of the first half against Western Kentucky, that was the first time I remember seeing it.
But that was like not even a 2-minute drill situation. That was like a 45-second drill. Yeah.
So that's the extremes that they have to go to.
It's funny. We were watching the Notre Dame NC State game for the show we did on Wednesday afternoon, and you saw Notre Dame come out in 5 wide, and it's like, I was trying to remember the last time I saw Ohio State come out in 5 wide. That just, for a school that loads up on wide receivers, they just don't do that. They have a tight end out there a lot because they feel that tight end is important in terms of the run game, in terms of just having an extra pass blocker in there, having that running back there. It just they rarely go much more wide receiver heavy than 11 personnel with 3 receivers out there.
And even when you would see like 5 wide, it's a tight end and a running back split out.
Yeah.
Kevin?
All right, 2 more actually. Because I really like one of them. But this one from Yakov.
He can't count.
Wins, can we get an out of jail card for free regarding not winning the East yet and still making the playoffs last year in 2016?
Okay, so if Ohio State beats Notre Dame, is that a get out of jail free card for not winning the East? If Ohio State is not the team that comes out of the East, I think yes, but I think that scenario would be that one of the teams would have to, Michigan or Penn State would have to run the table, and either Penn State, Michigan or Penn State loses 2 games, and Ohio State is the 7-1 team to the 8-0 team, and because if it's each of them win 1. And Ohio State has won all of its non-conference games, you get to the point in the tiebreakers where it's like the 5th tiebreaker down if it's 1-1-1 for all the teams. And the 5th tiebreaker down is your cross-divisional games, the difficulty of your cross-divisional games. And Ohio State is almost certainly going to be the best of those because Michigan does not have a particularly tough cross-divisional draw, and neither is Penn State. So, if Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State go 1-1 each, Ohio State is probably the team that wins, so they win the division anyway. So really, the short answer is, yeah, this obviously helps your chances of making the playoff with a loss, but there's like only one real scenario where that probably comes into play.
I have been thinking that if Ohio State wins, that's probably the best win of the year for anybody, depending on what else happens on Saturday.
A true road win. Yeah,
because Alabama is not looking like Alabama right now. So Texas winning there, great job. It didn't really hold up too well against Wyoming, but I think this would be the best win for anybody. Now, we'll see what else happens. But,
well, and we'll see what Notre Dame and Alabama look like at the end of the season.
But in terms of right now, I'm saying, yeah.
Last one from Gladiator for Freedom. Okay, fellas, your first major test of the season. Are you ready?
What are we getting tested on? Is this a pop quiz? I was not prepared.
How do you keep an idiot in suspense? I'm waiting for the rest of the question.
It's gullible up there.
Yeah.
Never noticed that before.
It doesn't. So is Ohio State ready for this? I mean,
are you ready?
Am I ready? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Who are we asking you? Is it
now?
Only I can prevent forest fires.
It's going to be a lot of work for us. We've got a lot of stuff planned. That will be a test more than I am normally accustomed to. I don't like waking up before noon on a Friday, but we'll already be, probably in South Bend at that point. So I am ready for this test. I don't know that Kevin or Tom are. I know it sure seems like this team is, but it's going to be fascinating to watch this first quarter, because if somebody jumps out, that would surprise me in terms of the first quarter, just because of these kind of games. But then you also have in these kinds of games, like the second quarter just drifts by, like you don't even notice it. And before you know it, it's like 21-14. And you're like, when did all these points get here?
Yeah. It's one of those games where you might have both teams score on the opening drive, on that scripted opening drive, and then it's 7-7 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter too. Like or 10-7 someone. I'm expecting close, a deeply uncomfortable game. Not a bad game, but just a game where Ohio State fans are just miserable watching the game. And
can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's going to be a heck of a fun day, a heck of a fun weekend. I am really looking forward to it. And, talking to the players, man, the players are very clearly looking forward to this one as well.
Yeah. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. That way you'll be notified because we will, like I said, we'll be going live quite a bit this weekend. And of course, we'll be dropping other videos as well. So want to thank you all for tuning in. Find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Support us there as well. We would appreciate that. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys.